The Balrog of Moria didn't just wake up and destroy Khazad-dûm by accident. It happened just as Sauron was rising, and that is no coincidence. Most people say that Sauron and the Balrog never would have worked together. But what if I told you that Sauron may have used the Balrog for his own purposes? Even Tolkien himself hints at this in his own writings, and by the end of the video you'll see exactly how deep their connection really goes. Now let's be fair, many people argue that Sauron and the Balrogs are not working together, and there are some valid reasons for this. First of all, Sauron and the Balrogs are both Maya. They are lesser Ainur. In essence, they are from the same order of being. So it stands to reason, why would the Balrog take orders from Sauron? And secondly, there's a matter of motive. Sauron wants to dominate Middle-earth, he wants to control it. He wants a structured world bent to his own will. And Morgoth, by extension the Balrogs, seek only destruction, unmaking. They don't want to rule Middle-earth, they want to ruin it. So the argument goes that they are fundamentally incompatible. But is that truly the case? So we're going to go and dig deeper, because in Appendix A of Lord of the Rings, in the section titled Durin's Folk, there is a footnote that gets often overlooked. Let me read you the following. Or released from prison, it may well be that it had already been awakened by the malice of Sauron. Right there in the text, it implies that not the Balrog awakened on his own, or that the dwarves awakened it, but Sauron himself. And I know, this line is speculative. It is a some say moment. It is not a definitive statement, but it is not the only thing that I could find, because in the same section, I will read you the following. The power of Moria endured throughout the Dark Years and the dominion of Sauron. For though Eregion was destroyed and the gates of Moria were shut, the halls of Khazad-dûm were too deep and strong, and filled with a people too numerous and valiant for Sauron to conquer from without. Isn't that a little foreboding? Sauron could not conquer Khazad-dûm by force. The dwarves were too strong, too entrenched, their halls were unbreachable. So what do you do when you can't conquer it from without? That's right, you destroy it from within, hence the Balrog. Let me read you something more. Thus they roused from sleep, a thing of terror that flying from Thangorodrim had lain hidden at the foundations of the earth since the coming of the host of the west, a Balrog of Morgoth. Well, this line places the Balrog's retreat to the Misty Mountains all the way back before the end of the First Age, before the War of Wrath. So it's not far-fetched to believe that Sauron, who was back then still Morgoth's lieutenant, knew where his servants were going into hiding. But that raises a fascinating question. Did Sauron plan to use Durin's Bane all along? We're going to take a look at the broader strategy of Sauron during the Third Age, because after the downfall of Númenor and the loss of the One Ring, Sauron was weakened and he needed to rebuild his strength. So he went into hiding in Mirkwood, took the alias of the Necromancer and lived there in his fortress of Dol Guldur. There he worked from the shadows, weakening his enemies one by one. He started with the northern kingdom of Arnor. He sent his Witch King to establish the realm of Angmar, which led to centuries of war, and eventually Arnor was destroyed. In 1635 of the Third Age, a great plague arose from the east, and it swept across Gondor and Eriador, which many later believed, and with good reason, that Sauron was behind all of this. The plague decimated Gondor, it made it vulnerable. And with its guard town at Mordor, Sauron's Nazgûl could return to the Black Land and they took Minas Ithil. But what about the dwarves? They had held firm. Khazad-dûm was untouched by plague. Its gates were closed and its people strong. And so the last bastion of opposition was Sauron could not defeat were the dwarves of Khazad-dûm. But Sauron had still one last card to play, a buried one. We're going to go one more time to the book, and this time to the Tale of Years, which Tolkien writes in the year 1980. If I can get to it. The Witch King comes to Mordor, and there gathers the Nazgûl. A Balrog appears in Moria and slays Durin VI. These two events happen in close succession, and that is not a coincidence. Think of it as a masterstroke of evil strategy. While the Nazgûl rally in Mordor, a Balrog awakens in Moria. Durin VI is slain. His son Nain follows shortly after. The dwarves flee and Khazad-dûm is abandoned. The last bastion of dwarvish power is destroyed from within. This fits perfectly in Sauron's larger pattern. Sauron doesn't always strike directly. He whispers, he corrupts, he infiltrates. He knew that brute force wouldn't work on the dwarves of Khazad-dûm. With a terror from the First Age, a being born of shadow and flame, this would definitely do the job. If Sauron could unleash this Balrog in Khazad-dûm, why didn't he use him elsewhere? Well, the answer lies with the nature of those beings. Balrogs are not tame. They are not weapons you use like a sword. They are these ancient spirits of shadow and flame, with their own will and their own hatred. Sauron could never control these beings, but he could nudge him. He could stir him, and once awakened, the destruction was inevitable. The fall of Khazad-dûm had many ripple effects. The dwarves were scattered, their morale was broken, and the glory of Moria was lost. It wasn't just a tactical victory, it was a cultural one, the spiritual blow to the hearts of Durin's folk. And all the while, Sauron was slowly rebuilding his empire, piece by piece, in the dark. Arnor was destroyed, Gondor was weakened. The dwarves had fallen, only the elves remained, and even they were fading. So yes, there's a strong evidence that Sauron didn't just knew about the Balrog of Moria, he used him subtly, effectively, strategically. The dwarves never stood a chance. It just leaves one final question. What about the elves? Lothlorien, Rivendell, those places play a pivotal role, may I say definitive role, in Sauron's eventual defeat. Why didn't his shadow consume them too? Well, the answer lies with Gandalf, which I'll explain here in the next 6 minutes. I'll see you there. Bye bye.